You know, Justice Tony Hunt, who is one of my favourite judges, I have to say.
Okay.
Yeah, he just is. Special criminal
You know
court.
your life is gone wrong when you have favourite judges.
Yeah, you
one
do,
way
I
or another.
suppose. But yeah, no, I think he really says it. You know, he comes out with things and they're just so true, you know. And one thing that he said to Jason O'Connor, Jay O'Connor as he's known, he's pleaded guilty to a reduced charge, but nonetheless gone to prison for, what is it, 11 years, was it? I can't see.
11-year sentence. I think 15 years is 4 years suspended.
But what he said to him was his would-be victim was lucky to have recovered from the gunshot wounds.
Yeah.
And Jay O'Connor is lucky that his victim didn't die, because otherwise he would have been facing a life sentence instead of an 11-year sentence. It's so true. You know, people who try to kill someone and they don't manage to actually get lesser sentences than those who try to kill them, and it does. And sometimes it can be just an inch or a centimetre or a millimetre for a bullet, but the same kind of like intent is there, isn't it?
It is. And of course you can be given a life sentence for attempted murder. Jay O'Connor's charge is slightly more confusing, I suppose, in that it's not a straight attempted murder charge.
No, because he pleaded guilty to a reduced one, didn't he?
Yeah, he pleaded guilty to one of these technical charges under the sort of the anti-gangland laws. He pleaded guilty to the charge that he did on certain dates with the knowledge of the existence of a criminal organisation, participate effectively in facilitating a serious offence by that criminal organisation, to wit, murder. Now, I've actually shortened that significantly.
There
was a lot more
and
bits
also, who's the criminal organisation?
Well, the criminal organisation is the organisation that carried it out, I suppose. So I don't think that...
that organisation doesn't need to be named because Jay O'Connor obviously has strong links to the Kinahan organisation.
He does.
But this wasn't on behalf of them, or...?
No, it wasn't on behalf of them, but it was on behalf of a criminal organisation, effectively, that he had playing a leading role in it in the Blanchardstown area.
So his criminal organisation?
Well, I suppose so. I mean, certainly one that he
his criminal organisation has links to the Kinahan Cartel.
Yeah, I mean...
By 2016, there was very few people who didn't have links to the Kinahan organisation, to be honest with you, anyway.
No, look, Jay O'Connor has obviously, since the late 90s, been a very serious criminal figure. Very much involved in a feud, really, for 20 years with his former associates in the Blanchardstown area, a group that came out following the demise of the Westies. Jay O'Connor would have been involved in the Westies when Stephen Sugg and Jane Coates had to go to Spain. Their patch was there, a very lucrative patch, and Jay O'Connor was... And
Jay O'Connor's 46 now, so had they lived, they would have been around that
slightly
age,
older, maybe a couple of years older. I think there was a couple of years between them as well.
Forever young, obviously, because they were... murdered when they were, one of them I think was just in his early 30s and the other in his 20s. But
yeah, so Jay O'Connor was one of their crew, really.
Yeah.
And when they left, there was this big drug operation that was in place, effectively, and it split between two factions. And from then until really today, there has been outbreaks of violence. We spoke about it before. There's been a number of shootings, a number of murders. These people were all once friends, but you know, they fought really a 20-year feud. The people involved had been in and out of prison. The feud would die down when either Jay O'Connor or others were in prison, and then it would spark up again. And the murder, or the attempted murder of Charlie Cooper, was linked to that.
And it was because Keith Walker, a friend of O'Connor's, had been murdered in 2015 at some pigeon racing event. And according to O'Connor, Walker was driving his car at the time.
Yeah.
So O'Connor reckoned that he was very upset by Keith Walker's murder, but he also reckoned that it was a sort of a case of mistaken identity and that those bullets were for him.
Yeah, and I think that is accepted by everybody, that was the case. And Jay O'Connor, even despite his criminality, he had his one hobby that he loved, which was the pigeon racing. Keith Walker was in his car in East Wall attending a pigeon meeting when he was confronted by a gunman wearing a dress and shot dead. There's no doubt that it was Jay O'Connor they were going for. Jay O'Connor would ultimately give evidence in the murder trial would have lost his head while on the stand and gone to attack the accused at one
This
point.
was in 2017 when Christopher MacDonald, who was then 34, was charged with the murder. And he was found unanimously guilty by the jury at the Central Criminal Court. So, but he was one, O'Connor believed, of many people that were involved in the murder of Keith Walker and which he saw as the sort of the attempt at murdering him.
I think it was. And I mean, and behind all of this are, two brothers, David and Daniel Goulding, who were, once O'Connor's friends, very serious criminals in their own right. The Gouldings would have had links to Mick Kelly and people known as the Panda, who was ultimately shot dead by the IRA. So there'd been tit for tat incidents for 2 decades, and somebody was killed in the wrong place at the wrong time. So Jay O'Connor had subsequently vowed to get revenge for this shooting. He was speaking to people on an encrypted phone. Now, the evidence was given. This phone was ultimately seized off Jay O'Connor's during a raid on his home. I think that raid was captured on one of the TV programs, was it, Inside the K at the time. That phone was an encrypted BlackBerry device. So it wasn't an EncroChat device. But the guards were ultimately able to get into it, I think, the old-fashioned way, really.
Yes, because it's actually Justice Tony Hunt, my fave, says that the reason for these messages, these encrypted messages, that they're used and a lot of them were heard before the court. But he says that the reason that they were available was because of developments in technology.
Yeah. So they weren't hacked into the messages. It wasn't one of these where they're intercepted electronically like EncroChat, where the police break into...
They were still on the phone somewhere.
They were still on the phone.
Never properly deleted or something.
Never properly deleted. Basically, the guards...
cheapo encrypted network.
Well, I think it was a previous generation where obviously the EncroChat and some of the other devices you could delete it remotely. But ultimately, while we didn't... Because Jay O'Connor pled guilty, you don't hear exact details of how the guards had to do it. But basically, they got into the device itself. I mean, basically broke through the password and were able to read the messages. And they were obviously accepted by the court. And Jay O'Connor pled guilty.
And some of those messages, one of them, and I quote, "I have a target, need to show these junkies now. Anyone involved has to go, eye for an eye." And another exchange between O'Connor and his associates discussed the need for tracker devices and silencers for various operations concerning these targets. And he says, "I'm up for it," regarding the operation, and which someone else said was a suicide mission. So in other words, that they were going to get caught if they kind of did it. Yeah,
so while he's pleaded guilty to his role in the attempted murder of Charlie Cooper, he's also pled guilty to the facilitation of being involved in this criminal network, which is, I suppose, the Kinahan network broadly, because...
under his...
Well, it's a sort of a subcell, I suppose, of the Kinahan organisations. Some of the messages that the guards used in court weren't linked to the attempt to kill Charlie Cooper. They were linked to an attempt to survey or plan
other
hits.
targets.
Yes, Kinahan targets.
Yeah.
Now, Jay O'Connor would have never been, if you have, which we've all seen these charts of the Kinahan organisation, Jay O'Connor never would have appeared on that. But what happened at this stage, what we're talking about, I don't know, sort of 2016, 2017, and we've seen this again with a lot of others of these cells where the Kinahans were just hiring known gunmen, basically. Jay O'Connor certainly would have had contacts with various Kinahan figures, but they were at that point just really picking up guns for hire to carry out murders. Jay O'Connor would have been arrested for at least one of those murders, and these messages show that what they were attempting to identify targets and using kind of the same modus operandi that we saw in some of the hits on Noel Kieran, on the attempted murders of Patsy Hutch, where they're using tracker devices, using these encrypted phones, and operating as a team, really, where you have somebody surveying, somebody doing the movements, and then somebody like Jay O'Connor who will come in and do the shooting, really.
So he is, what, you said he got 11 years?
11 years.
And he has 70 previous convictions.
Yeah. I mean, he did okay, I think, to be honest.
He didn't do too bad now.
And it wasn't a particularly early guilty plea. I mean, he sort of pled guilty when they got into the phone effectively. But I mean, it's still a significant achievement. I mean, for the guards to put him away.
Absolutely, he's a very serious member of an organised crime gang. That I'm sure Hugo Boss are delighted.
Why? Because
that photograph of him with the Hugo Boss T-shirt seems to have been permanently used, and every time he puts a foot wrong, it's used again and again and again. I'm sure he's exactly the type of guy that Hugo Boss hope to wear their
I suppose
threads. What do you reckon?
Well, it's possible. It's possible. I mean, Jay O'Connor, I was just looking back, I think he first appeared in the Sunday World in some like the early 2000s. And from even before that, you just have this wave of dangerous criminality.
And he would have only been in his early 20s then.
Only in his early 20s. And, there was,
30s.
armed rob. Sorry. So there was armed rob.
I was actually just checking with you there if you were on the ball with your mathematics skills.
Well, there you go. I wasn't.
I was going 46 minus 20. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is 20s actually.
It's 20s, yeah.
You see the way you just roll
No, I wasn't. You confused me there because I was actually trying to remember something and you were. But I mean, if you go back to him, some of these, some of like the Goulding brothers alone would be worthy of a podcast, and the feud that they fought with Jay O'Connor and the incredible offshoots and consequences for it. Most recently, we had Daniel Goulding, who was jailed for 18 years for the attempted murder of two Gardaí. I don't know if you remember that, where he was lost the plot, I suppose, and was shooting out of his house window at the guards as they came into the house. Daniel, I think a lot of it was caught on CCTV. One of the guards got hit, I think, in the leg, managed to make a good recovery. But all of that was...
the Wild West.
Like the Wild West. But all of that was driven by... he got paranoid. Daniel Goulding had come out of prison after another serious offence, and he got paranoid Jay O'Connor was coming to kill him, and he was taking loads of drugs. He was fully in belief that O'Connor was coming to get him. O'Connor made sort of public statements that he was coming to get him. He's gradually lost the plot, a bit like Bottler Devoy, and ultimately shot at the guards. And that's kind of just an offshoot of all of that chaos and violence.
And now they're both in prison together.
They're both in prison. I mean, Daniel Goulding's doing an 18-year sentence, really long sentence.
They'll obviously be kept apart.
They'll obviously be kept apart, but just a wave of chaos through people's lives,
Okay, well, listen, we'll leave that at that.
Yep.
Thanks, Niall.
We'll study up some maths before our next podcast.
Yeah, we will, yeah. I'm Nicola Tallant and you're watching Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs and the underworld in Ireland and across the globe. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you can be the first to watch all our latest episodes. You can also listen wherever you get your podcasts.